Steve McQueen has gone down in Hollywood history as one of the most manly and confident actors of all time. But behind his demeanor was a scared child desperate to prove himself. Join Facts Verse as we explore how Steve McQueen never recovered from his childhood traumas. For decades on end, the late Steve McQueen has held a reputation as one of the coolest stars to grace movie screens. In fact, he was so cool during his time, he was awarded the moniker the King of Cool. The legend of the actor was likely only made all the more large by the fact of his untimely death, which happened when he was only 50. Fans were taken by surprise when Steve passed away from a heart attack. He had known for years he was on the losing end of a cancer battle, but had kept the information away from the public. By the time people found out, it was too late. By the end of 1980, Steve was gone. His last film was a vehicle called The Hunter, and it was released the same year as his death. Steve already knew he was sick during production, but he kept that fact to himself. In secret, he was undergoing experimental cancer treatments in the desperate hope he'd be able to find something that worked. These treatments included animal cells being injected into Steve via intramuscular injections, as well as coffee enemas the actor was given routinely. In the end, it wasn't specifically the cancer that got him. However, the actor likely wouldn't have passed away at age 50 if he wasn't undergoing an incredible health battle. What really did Steve in was a heart attack he suffered while undergoing surgery related to his cancer. He was having a tumor removed, and he passed away as the result of cardiac arrest he suffered during the process. With that, he was taken from the world far too early. Therapist interview. Since Steve McQueen at least knew he was closer to death, he was able to take some steps towards coming to terms with the fact that the end was approaching. One of these ways was by sitting down for some recorded conversations with a therapist named Brew Joy. Posthumously, these conversations helped fans get a much deeper understanding of what made Steve tick. The recording was used prominently in a 2015 documentary about the actor called Steve McQueen, The Man and Lamont. One of the most shocking things from the interview was just how insecure the actor was, even right up until the end. After having accomplished what Steve did during his lifetime, one might think the fame and celebrity alone would have vanquished even the strongest of insecurities. However, the insecurities that plagued him were fundamental ones he could never shake, and they were instilled in him during his childhood. According to McQueen, he never received the love and attention needed from his parents. Because of this, he was always lashing out and doing things for attention at every opportunity. He was born in Indiana, and his father abandoned his mother when he was still young. His mother was said to have been an underage prostitute, and it was also alleged that she suffered from unchecked alcoholism. Unable to take care of her son, she ended up passing Steve on to one of his uncles. This uncle lived on a Missouri farm, and Steve didn't feel that he fit in there. By the age of 14, he had run away from the farm and was living on the streets of Los Angeles. Homeless teenage years. As a homeless teen in LA, Steve took up with a street gang. It was here that the angry youth finally got a chance to show the world he wasn't to be trifled with. Sadly, expressing his machismo in the street gang didn't do much to ward off the trauma of having been abandoned as a child. In fact, nothing ever would. Still, the time Steve spent on the streets in LA undoubtedly contributed to his hardened visage and attitude. If it wasn't for his hardened upbringing, we would never have gotten the beloved screen actor he went on to be. Even so, Steve may have considered a trade if given the opportunity. After years on the streets, Steve McQueen made the choice to step away from that gang and become a part of the U.S. Marines. He joined in 1947 and served for a few years before being honorably discharged in 1950. His time in service also undeniably contributed to the way Steve presented himself later on screen. After returning to normal life, Steve was temporarily unsure of what to do with himself. He went through various menial jobs, yet couldn't decide on what field he wanted to try. Eventually, he got the idea he might want to try acting. He wasn't so much interested in the craft as he was in the bounty of beautiful women that could be found in the entertainment industry. In addition to always being insecure, Steve was also a womanizer. Perhaps these two things went hand in hand for the beloved star. acting years. Even though Steve McQueen didn't have a whole lot of passion for acting, he proved pretty good at it. His unique and troubled upbringing gave him a special screen presence, and audiences could tell he was the real deal just by looking at him. The actor wasn't just tough, but he had an effortless charisma about him that couldn't be learned, not to mention the fact that he was traditionally attractive in a way other tough guys were not. Steve loved women, and some may be surprised to learn he was married 3 times over the course of his life. His first wife was a non-famous figure who garnered the actor 3 children. They divorced towards the end of the 60s because he was having a hard time staying faithful. After divorcing his first wife, he moved on to second wife, Ally McGraw. This was more akin to a torrid love affair. Steve and Ally may have had great chemistry in bed, but had a hard time getting along elsewhere. His third and final wife was just his style, a much younger woman who waited on him hand and foot. Steve was a traditionalist who preferred his women subservient. His first wife had been subservient enough, but he had been too much of a womanizer. Ally McGraw, on the other hand, never had any intention of being subservient to Steve whatsoever. Steve's third and final wife was named Barbara Minty. She was nearly 3 decades his senior, and the actor didn't have much energy to cheat at that point in his life. Final years. As early as during his marriage to Ally McGraw, Steve McQueen began flirting with leaving the entertainment industry behind. Sadly, he never got to make good on that promise before his untimely death. He and Ally had moved from Hollywood to Malibu to try to give themselves a modicum of space from the industry, but they ended up not taking this break very seriously. With Barbara Minty, Steve had finally found the perfect person to escape from Hollywood and settle down with. Sadly, the two were only married for a couple of months before Steve's death. The actor had been envisioning a future where he could step away from it all and watch the children he had with his first wife grow up in peace alongside his third wife. However, fate had other things in mind for the star. Steve McQueen spent his whole life trying to prove how much of a man he was because his parents didn't love him. Now it's time to hear from you. Did you know Steve grew up on the streets of Los Angeles and that he joined a gang at the age of 14? Let us know in the comments section below.